إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن وأنتم مسلمون. Praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Him and we ask Him for guidance and forgiveness. And we seek protection in Allah from the malice of our own souls and the evil of our actions. Whom Allah guides, no one can lead him astray, and whom He makes astray, no one can lead him back to the right path. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, by Himself, no associate to Him, and I bear witness that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is His slave and messenger. On June 7, 2021, the Afzal family were run over by a truck, resulting in 4 of the 5 family members to pass away. A man, whose name we will not utter because he does not deserve any notoriety, had so much hate in his heart that he brutally murdered a family because of their faith. A faith that everyone in this masjid shares. All around the globe, Muslims are being mistreated. In China, they are put into concentration camps. In Myanmar, they are slaughtered. In India, they have been targets of systematic pogroms. In Israel, they are mowed down on a daily basis, and in Europe and even in the United States, they are subject to increasing demonization and persecution. And every now and then, the Muslim community has to defend our faith against accusations of terrorism and honor. Whether it's a hate crime committed by a single individual or an entire government banning the hijab, Muslims are constantly in the public eye as a menace to society. This results in a never-ending pattern. A Westerner mocks or openly demeans Islam, often labeling it as harsh, intolerant, and a violent religion. In return, some Muslims have harsh, intolerant, and violent reactions, without realizing that they only seem to confirm the accusation. Back in October 2020, a French history teacher showed his students caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, mocking our beloved Prophet. A few days later, an 18-year-old Muslim thought it would be appropriate to decapitate him, which goes against everything that Islam stands for and reaffirms the bigot's belief that Islam is a religion of violence. But when dealing with intolerance and bigotry, Muslims are supposed to act with compassion and empathy. Compassion represents the true spirit of Islam and is far more vital to Islamic teachings than anything else. The dictionary defines compassion as the deep awareness of suffering in others combined with the desire to relieve it. This urge, this desire to relieve pain and distress of other people is deeply embedded in our human psyche. It's our natural instinct. It's part of our fitrah, our primordial human nature. It is what makes us human. If we walk down the street and saw an old man stumbling down a pavement or a toddler walking into the road towards speeding traffic, we would instinctively rush towards to help. Most people would even try risking their own life to save another. That is what compassion is. Caring for the pain and suffering for others, often disregarding our own safety. We Muslims should know all about compassion and mercy. In the Holy Quran, we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has 99 beautiful names. We also know that Allah's most frequently used names are Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, the most compassionate and the most merciful. Every chapter, every surah in the Quran opens with the words Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the merciful. Every action a Muslim takes, from waking up to opening a door, to eating a meal, starting our prayers, starting an exam, exiting the bus, this begins with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the merciful. We bring something of the heavens to the most mundane parts of our lives, and that is how we bless everything we do, with the holy names of Allah's names of mercy and compassion. And just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is strict in punishment, irresistible in might, and supreme in glory, He is also Al-Ghafurur Rahim. the all-forgiving, the most merciful. Muslims who constantly invoke the holy names of compassion and mercy must surely show evidence in our behavior, in our relations with others. Why is it then that some of us can be so harsh, so impatient, and so judgmental? Why is it we continually ostracize people of our own community who struggle with their faith just because they don't fit our standards or interpretations of piety? If we can't give basic compassion to our own Muslim brothers and sisters, how can we possibly believe that we can ever give it to a stranger who has so much hate for Islam? Some Muslims have chosen to follow a limited selection of Allah's names, like Al-Jabbar, the Compeller, or Al-Qahar, the Subduer, or Al-Mu'mit, the Taker of Life, that they often forget that although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has names of rigor, He also has names of gentleness, like As-Salam, the source of peace, like Al-Musawwir, the shaper of beauty, and Al-Sabur, the patient one. And above all else, we must remember Him as Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, the most compassionate and the most merciful. Clearly then, Allah wants us to reflect on compassion and mercy in all of our transactions. As human beings, we are likely from time to time to be roused to anger, but we should really calm down and be patient and forgiving and merciful. Remember, in a famous Hadith Qudsi, Allah describes the very moment of creation in these words. When Allah decreed the creation, He pledged Himself by writing in His book, which is laid down with Him, "My mercy prevails over my wrath." Compassion is not an abstract idea. It's showing God's love in action. Every human being was created with a natural inclination towards mercy and compassion. Greed and selfishness are not part of our natural state. They were cultivated. And now we live in a must-have culture. From early childhood, we are bombarded with endless streams of messages to buy this, buy that. You must have this, you must have that, to prove yourself, to indulge yourself. These marketing moguls manipulate our egos and promote greed and envy as acceptable behaviors. But Islam teaches us the exact opposite. We are taught Islam urges its followers to follow the prophetic examples of Musa alayhi salam, of Isa alayhi salam, and Muhammad peace be upon him, as well as the earlier prophets. They lived frugally, and their lives were totally dedicated to the well-being of others. We should try to do the same. The prophets are our real teachers and our real role models. Muslims, even in the US, are very fortunate. We enjoy a degree of material prosperity, personal and political freedom that is very hard to find elsewhere, especially in many other Muslim countries. But with this freedom and wealth comes a big responsibility. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, warned us that we will have to take account for our wealth, our health, and our youth, and our opportunities in life. Some of us make the mistake of thinking that it's enough to drop a few pennies in the collection box to justify a guilty conscience. Donations are certainly welcome, but real compassion is not about money or material needs. It's about giving your time and your talent right here in our own neighborhoods. Our own masjid struggles with the basic concept of unity, much less community. We need to reevaluate our priorities and be representations of Islam that brings people in. We have to practice what we preach. Programs in the IIT demonstrate going out on the weekends and feeding the homeless or giving blankets to the homeless. That is what the interpretations of Islam truly unfold. When we become characters of mercy and compassion, paragons of hope and peace, then that will bring people in. Not by our violent reactions when people demean our prophet or when they say things that we know is not true. We cannot let their inappropriate behavior justify our inappropriate reactions. We need to challenge the harsh interpretations of our faith and also build alliances with all the good-willed people who are committed to protecting human rights. In Surah Fussilat, verse 34, the Quran goes even further, advising what we today call killing with kindness. Good and evil cannot be equal. Repel evil with what is better, and your enemy will become as close as an intimate friend. May Allah help us to live up to the holy names of Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, words that all too easily roll off our tongue, but are stripped of their meaning when actions lack mercy. We can and should work to become compassionate and merciful towards everyone, day in and day out. In the end, there will always be people attacking our faith, government institutions, and individuals who believe the worst in our faith. But our way of life cannot be a justification to handle their intolerance with violence. Their intolerance and bigotry cannot be an excuse for our lack of behavior, our etiquettes. Our world is filled with injustice, and we as Muslims have a responsibility to right the wrongs. But let us follow the ways of the Prophet and make change with compassion. Fight for justice with an open hand and not a closed fist. Let every word we utter drip with empathy and peace, and let us change the hearts of the disbelievers by our actions and our behaviors, and show that Islam is truly a religion of peace. Today, we've known that in the past week, a family lost their lives because a man could not hold himself accountable, and he believed that they were terrorists. And this is a never-ending cycle. Once or twice, a Muslim family dies, and the media portrays it as a mental health attack, because God forbid any other person who is not a Muslim commits a terrorist attack, and it's not condemned as a terrorist attack. It's just a misinterpretation. But we know the truth, and we understand the severity of this. Islamophobia runs very deep in our culture, our society. Constantly, mainstream media, Hollywood, and all of these interpretations and Western people have decided that Islam is not worth knowing. But we need to be showing that Islam is not something that can be dismissed, something that can be demeaned or humiliated. It is something that is beautiful. No other religion in the entire world can bring an entire people to one singular spot for Hajj, prostrating to their God. No other religion has this type of unity, but we need to demonstrate that unity, starting with our own community. We need to work together and begin to act with compassion. And what does that mean? That means we cannot dismiss or ostracize people who have tattoos or piercings or people that have made mistakes in their past, because they themselves are on their own journey. And all we can do is help them and guide them to the right path with no malice in our hearts. Because the Prophet in his time treated those who wanted to kill him, wanted to eradicate everything that he believed in, with kindness. He did not raise his voice, he did not strike his hand, nor did he attack the oppressors. He showed that Islam is truly a religion of peace. And ladies and men, we need to do the exact same. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair for your beautiful message. Now I'd like Brother Brendan to stand with me, so he decided to accept Islam. And I'll let Danish also come here. But Brother Danish brought him to the masjid, actually, IIT, and he is his neighbor. And we thank you, Brother Khurshid also. He also talked to him and shared the knowledge of Islam. So I will ask you to repeat after me. Mm-hmm. So we'll do in Arabic first, then we'll translate in English. Ashhadu,
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 Allah,
Allah,
ilaha,
ilaha,
illa,
illah,
Allah,
Allah,
wa ashhadu,
wa ashhadu,
anna,
anna,
Muhammadan,
Muhammadan,
abdahu,
abdahu,
wa rasuluh.
wa rasuluh.
I bear witness
I bear witness
there is no God
there is no God
worthy of worship
but Allah,
and I
I bear witness that Muhammad is the
messenger
of Allah.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Brother Brendan accepted Islam. May Allah keep him informed. We all congratulate him for his opening. After the prayer, people will shake hand with you, they might hug you, but this is a COVID thing, so we like to just follow the guideline, just to shake hand or say whatever the best we can say. So, inshallah. So after the
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رافع السماء بلا عماد ومكفل الأرزاق العباد. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه. أما بعد، فيا معشر الإخوان، إن من آداب المعاشرة الإسلامية إصلاح القلب، ومن إصلاحه التوكل على الرب. فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لابن عباس رضي الله عنه وهو رديفه: يا غلام، احفظ الله يحفظك، احفظ الله تجده تجاهك، وإذا سألت فاسأل الله، وإذا استعنت فاستعن بالله. واعلم أن الأمة لو اجتمعت على أن ينفعوك بشيء لم ينفعوك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله لك، ولو اجتمعوا على أن يضروك بشيء لم يضروك إلا بشيء قد كتبه الله عليك. رفعت الأقلام وجفت الصحف، وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: إن روح القدس نفث في روعي أن النفس لن تموت حتى تستكمل رزقها، ألا فاتقوا الله وأجملوا في الطلب، ولا يحملنكم استبطاء الرزق أن تطلبوه بمعاصي الله، فإنه لا يدرك ما عند الله إلا بطاعته. قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه، إن الله بالغ أمره، قد جعل الله لكل شيء قدرا. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم، ونفعنا وإياكم منه بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. إنه تعالى جواد كريم قديم ملك بر رؤوف رحيم ورب حليم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا كما أمر، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إرغاما لمن جحد به وكفر، وأشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد الخلائق والبشر. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد إمام الحرمين صاحب الهجرتين وعلى آل محمد. فيا أيها الراجون منه شفاعة صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما، خصوصا منهم ذي العصر العريق أمير المؤمنين سيدنا أبي بكر الصديق رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى الزاهد الأواب أمير المؤمنين سيدنا أبي حفص عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى كامل الحياء والإيمان أمير المؤمنين سيدنا عثمان بن عفان رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى أسد الله الغالب أمير المؤمنين سيدنا علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى تمام العشرة المبشرة وعلى سائر الصحابة والتابعين رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين، واخذل الكفرة والمبتدعة والمشركين، وكن اللهم حافظهم وموئدهم وناصرهم يا رب العالمين ويا خير الناصرين. اللهم شتت شمل أعداء الدين ومزق جمعهم يا مبيد الظالمين. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، واجعل اللهم آمنة مطمئنة سائر بلاد المسلمين، واكتب اللهم الستر والسلامة والعافية علينا وعلى عبيدك الحجاج والغزاة والمسافرين في برك وبحرك من أمة محمد أجمعين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة واغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العلي العظيم يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر. الله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة.